Hey everybody, it's John Barrowman here, and you are listening to Tomorrow's Legends with Martin the Flash, Harley Quinn, and X-Force 11. Now you all may know me as playing Malcolm Merlin, and here's a little something for you. Every warrior must learn the simple truth that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as Tomorrow's Legends.
By my calculations, there's still enough time to save my friends. With luck.
And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, the Maid of Mischief Harley Quinn, and the Blue Beacon of Hope, X-Force 11.
Yes, welcome to Tomorrow's Legends. This week, it's episode 5 of season 7 called It's a Mad Scientist, otherwise known as Eobard Thawne, which is not me tonight. I am the Flash.
I'm Harley Quinn.
And I'm X-Force 11.
Hello, Legends.
Hello, Gideon. You're right. How are you rescuing the Legends and you're still here with us? That is crazy.
She's everywhere.
She's a time ship. I guess she can do whatever she wants, whenever she wants.
That's right.
It's true.
All right. So, a little bit of news.
We interrupt this podcast for a special report.
Yes, indeed. It is confirmed that November 24th, the episode entitled A Woman's Place is in the War Effort is our mid-season finale. Due to that, and the fact that it airs the day before Thanksgiving here in the U.S., we're going to be recording on Monday, November 29th. So your feedback deadline for that episode is that Monday at 7 p.m.
Yep, and we'll remind you again the week before that. It's basically giving all of our U.S. listeners the Thanksgiving weekend to not have to worry about trying to watch the show and get in feedback if you like doing that. And I mean, 2 out of 3 of us are down there, and they want to enjoy the Thanksgiving weekend. So,
yeah, watching and doing notes, I think, would be a big challenge for me, for sure. So I appreciate being able to push it a little bit.
Yeah. And it's the mid-season finale, so, I mean, the Legends will be off for 5 weeks anyway, so it's okay if we push the final one a couple days.
We got some time.
Yeah, we got some time. All right, well, let's get into this episode. Ratings and reviews. Start us off, X-Force.
I gave this one 8.5 steampunk TARDISes.
Nice.
First of all, I'm so glad that the whole team is back together. And second, I loved all the jokes about Davies and who he looks like. The funny thing is, as I'm kind of alluded to there, Davies' time machine seems more like the TARDIS. It takes our Legends where they need to go rather than where they want to go, so we'll see how that works out for us going forward. But I really enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of fun, and I am happy to see that they're time traveling again and anxious to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm so with you on a lot of that. I gave this episode 8.5 confused Zaris. And I thought the jokes about his appearance were hilarious. I completely thought they'd ignore it for sure, kind of like they did in the past with Charlie. But it was just so funny for them to me, like, because they kept saying he looked like literally every other character except for John.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And I loved that as like a running gag throughout the episode. It made me laugh for sure. And then, like, I was actually kind of on the edge of my seat for the second half of this episode. I mean, I was pretty sure that they weren't going to kill the Legends, but kudos to the writers. They definitely had me questioning it, and I was totally urging Gideon and Astra on. The only thing is, like, their storyline until the end, I didn't really like. Personally, I didn't really want to see any of it until they kind of get where they need to be to save the Legends. I felt like it was more just a means to an end. I just kept wanting to go back to the main storyline because I felt like it was a lot more juicy.
You're talking about Astra and Spooner?
Sorry, yeah, Astra, Spooner, and Gideon. Yeah, I was just kind of like, we'll get into it a little bit, but I was just kind of like meh on that story. It wasn't bad. I was like, I don't really care. Let's go back to something more interesting. But,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, chalk this date down on the calendar in 1925 that I actually have a higher rating than the both of you. What is going on?
That is shocking.
I'm giving this 9 gazebo time machines. It's funny, X-Force, you say TARDIS, I say gazebo. It looked like a gazebo to me.
Yeah.
Oh, are we on a roll this season? This just may be the second best season we've had. Can it be as good as season 2? I don't know, but it's pretty darn close right now. It's been since then that we've had this much fun consistently, and I almost feel like I can hang up the yellow suit for a while. Isn't that nice for a change? I loved this episode almost as much as the 100th, as it had everything in it. It had humor, action, drama, tension, great effects, edge-of-seat moments, and because it was OG Zari, I'll even take the mush. But what I loved most was that she was back in action doing her thing with tech wizardry and being so useful to the team and the mission. Hell yeah, 1 for Zari.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Well, let's dive into our show.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Where are we starting?
So, called this section Cannonball Run with Astra, Spooner, and Gideon.
Okay.
And my note literally just says, let's knock it out. There's not a lot happening. There's not a lot to say. And then you all have a little bit more to say. So, Jeff, kick us off. Where do you want to start?
So, this was they're hitchhiking. Evidently, they've gotten off the train and they're hitchhiking, but they're not having a whole lot of luck, and so Astra makes them a lucky rock, and I'm like, okay. I mean, she seemed really intent, and there was a glow about it, so I'm like, okay, a lucky rock.
I bought it. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, at first I was kind of like skeptical, but I was like, okay, because they kind of sold it for a while, right? But I really actually liked this character moment for Astra, especially when they revealed that the rock was not really lucky at all, that it was a fake spell the whole time. I just love that it was nice to see that she's connected to Spooner enough to like want to build her confidence up. She wants to give her hope. So it was nice to have an Astra who's trying to like build someone up instead of how she's always not like trying to like tear people down, but she's always like super negative and like, you know, very pessimistic. And so it was kind of a nice change for her character, and I liked the growth in it.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there too. They're slowly and finally changing Astra a little bit, so they need to just keep this going. I mean, for the Lucky Rock, I mean that people believe in lucky rabbit's feet, lucky charms, lucky whatever. So why not a lucky rock? I bought it. She had the sparkly effects and everything, and why not? You can cast a luck spell on anything. So I was totally fooled by it until she revealed that it wasn't. Because if you look at everything just played out perfectly. The timing of when they needed something to happen, it happened for them. So you thought, luck. It has to be the spell. It just worked out. So talk about uncanny timing. But yeah. But I liked that they had to explain it to Gideon, because Gideon was trying to debunk it. Which I thought was pretty funny, and then she even buys into it. She actually believes it too by the end. So
she does, which is funny. That might come back later.
Yeah.
So after their first ride fails, they get a ride from Irwin George Baker, the Cannonball. And so this is an actual, real historical figure. He made record-breaking runs on both motorcycles and on cars and trucks over the years. And he had a record-breaking run in 24 and in 26. So I'm guessing this hijacking of his car caused him not to break the record in 25.
Yeah. Because he's funny. On a bicycle. He probably never caught up to the guy.
Yeah.
That's really funny. I love that they kind of worked that in so it actually worked out with the story. That's hilarious. like I said, I don't know. I didn't really care as much for this story. Not because it was bad. It felt kind of like it was taking away from more exciting stuff. It just kind of was like boring and a little filler to me. I kind of would have been fine with honestly seeing the first scene and then everything else kind of occurred off screen until they get to outside New York and all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, there's New York. Oh, are we going to save the legends? Like, I totally would have been okay with that.
I actually liked how it played into the story because I think without him, they were way too far off from New York City, so it allowed them to get close enough only to have to have not been enough. Like, they got close, but it wasn't enough, and not from their perspective, they can't make it, and we have to have that oh crap tension moment from their side of things because this whole episode is basically a race to New York. Can Gideon get there? Can Astra and Spooner get there? The legends are trying to get the time machine where like 3 points were converging in on themselves, and it was a race. So I think with, even though I understand where you're like kind of bored with it, I think if we didn't see it, if we just saw Astra and Spooner suddenly show up and they're looking across the lake at New York, we would have been wondering, well, it might not have connected properly.
They get there?
Yeah, but it was fine. I mean, I don't think we spent a ton of time on it. It was fine, but it also allowed Astra to really play her part and just develop a little bit more. But I like that was an actual historical figure. I was going to ask you, X-Force, about that because I don't know that. I've never heard of Cannonball, but I also laughed at trying to break a speed record. I'm thinking, how fast did cars go back then? 20 miles an hour? Like.
Yeah, well, Gideon said they needed to be going an average of 55 to make it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Did cars even go that fast?
I don't know with those old ones like that. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think horses could run faster than those cars back then.
Yeah.
But we did get to see the opportunity of Spooner trying to make their luck, and she sees those power lines and has the plan. And I like that because she knows that Astra can use some magic to take out the power lines, and so I thought that was a neat way of, okay, let's make our own luck.
Yeah, that's true. It kind of played into the whole like luck thing and them, trying to come to grips with like trying to save their friends or not being able to save their friends. Like, did they really do it? So that was the part that kind of like had me on the edge of my seat. And I really liked like kind of all of these scenes because it was like, okay, who's really going to do it? Like, did Astra really cut the power soon enough? Did Gideon warn them before they all died? Was it a little bit of both? I mean, I think at the end of the day, it was Astra's spell, right? And Gideon kind of was just like catching up. Like, we just kind of like see her get to the legends and like she's just like talking with them or whatever. But before Spooner and Astra get there. But this was the part that I really liked because it was very tense, very like edge of my seat. I'm like, surely they're not going to really kill them, but I don't know. It was well done. It kept me wondering.
Well, it was the power outage that Astra caused because at first you're like, which happened first? Which got there first?
Yeah.
Because like I said, everything was converging at the same moment. But they confirmed it in the episode after it was all said and done. Nate actually asks them, how did you know the power surge would work? And Spooner replies, well, we had a little luck. So that kind of confirmed to me that the power surge got there in time to shut them down. At the same time that Gideon was running in going, no! I think it all happened at once, but it was the power surge that stopped their electricity from being able to power the machine. So, but I wanted also just give Gideon props here again. Amy, she had, even though she split off on her own, she had just a couple little fun moments. But when she arrived and got out of the car, she's still wearing those high heels. She took off in a sprint, and my gosh, that woman can run in heels and fast, like perfect running form. Like, she should teach Barry Allen how to run because she had better form than him.
She made it look easy, all in high heels, man. That is not easy to do.
Yeah. So way to go. It was just fun. I mean, she didn't have as big a part this episode, but she had her little heroic moment, and yeah, it was fun. So I just want to give her props.
Oh, yeah. Love Gideon. She's my favorite part about this season.
Oh, yes, totally. Indeed. But like you guys were both saying, though, just this whole area of the episode was edge of the seat, and I absolutely loved it. I just, everything, I was just not breathing. I was on the edge of the couch, and I was like, are they going to... Yes, in your back of your head, you're like, they're not going to kill everybody, but they could. I mean, it is a time travel show. They could die, and someone has to come around and reset things and reset things so it doesn't happen. Like, I mean, anything could happen on the show. So that's what gave us that consequence and that, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? It was just, I think it was the highest stakes episode we've had in a long time, and it really. I mean, we had Ava disappearing. We had Gary. Like, there's so much happening. It's like, you know what? Cliffhanger? What's going to happen here? Because they could have easily cliffhanged this one with them blowing up, and we don't know what happens.
Yeah. I thought they were going to for a minute. I immediately looked at the DVR. I'm like, please tell me there's 5 more minutes. I need resolution right now.
I know.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's why I gave it a 9. It was just fun. I love that edge of seat kind of feeling.
Yeah.
So I kind of broke the rest of this up into 2 sections, and so the first section I called it just the mansion. It's basically Nate, Zari, and the Hoovinator 2.0. So kind of dealing with, because we got some good scenes with them.
Yeah,
cool.
No, we sure did. So I'm just going to throw this out. I reorganized a few things, and I say, let's start with Nate and Zari and Gary and their relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love that Gary's still consistently asking Nate about Zari, and you know, just the hilarious fact that, you know, because of that, Zari thinks that Nate and Gary hooked up. that was just hilarious. That line is like, I won't be mad, I will have questions, or you know, however she said it. It was just hilarious.
I won't be mad, but I will be confused.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
there
funny.
You go. That's the line.
Yes. I loved it so much I wrote it down. I just loved all these little moments. It just made me smile. And plus, it's so nice to see Nate and Gary kind of bonding a little bit. Nate hasn't really had a best friend on the team since Ray left, so I just kind of really like that for them. And they just seem very unlikely characters to actually befriend one another. So I kind of like it for that reason.
Well, and that's a great point, Harley. Nate hasn't had a buddy to just bro out with. I mean, Bayrod, they tried to shoehorn Bayrod in and make him be the replacement, but he hasn't really filled that role well. And suddenly Gary is stepping in really nicely. And I think it's actually nice for Gary, too, because he's never had a buddy. So it's kind of a win-win scenario for both of them. And they're actually really fun together. They got a great on-screen chemistry.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And Zari, oh man, she is perfect as always with how she handles these situations. Just the look on her face when she kept teasing Nate about being with Gary, I loved it. She just was having a blast, and she's awesome.
There's that one point she goes, "Please say more." It was just so funny.
Definitely OG Zari. She's how do you get better than her? That's
yeah.
I mean, look at the character. Everybody loves Sara. We all love Ava. We all love Zari 1.0, and we're falling in love with Zari 2.0. And we got Gideon now. I mean, we've got 4 stellar women on this cast that we all love so much. It's amazing.
Yes.
So I'm liking that this urging by Gary finally gets Nate to ask Zari about the next step, and you know, he wants to have Zari in the mansion instead of the totem since it's out of space and time.
Did we have this thought at one point? Because
yes.
Okay, because it was sounding very familiar, and I think it's very smart, of course, because we thought of it, and it makes a lot of sense. So I really like that they were playing with this idea that Zari, didn't want to live with Nate. I love how they played it up with, the Hoover aspect. He's like, oh, I can tell you're lying. And I was like, oh, what is she hiding? Is she really hiding something? And they, really had me kind of doubting her for a little bit. But really, it wasn't that she didn't want to live with him or be with him. It's just that she doesn't want to do it in the mansion. She wants him to come join her. So that'll come up in a minute.
We did have a whole discussion on it. We were talking about how do we get more of our OG Zari again. And we threw out a few theories, like sticking Constantine in the totem with Zari too, so OG could live with Nate on the outside. And that would save John as well back then, because we were discussing it when we were thinking how John has to die, but maybe he doesn't have to die. We could do this. But the one thing we didn't come up with was the pocket dimension house, because that hadn't come into play yet. They introduced this later after we were already theorizing about it. So that's where we got that. Now, it's a good idea, and it took me a bit to wrap my head around, like what Nate's idea was with the pocket dimension. They could live in the house there, and it took me a little bit to get my head around it. The pocket dimension exists outside of space and time. Therefore, Zari could exist there without the repercussions of two Zaris at once, right?
Yes.
So they're telling us that both Zaris could be in the mansion pocket dimension version together? Why don't we see that? If that's the case, why don't we ever see that?
I think this is the first time that they've really thought about it.
Okay.
I mean, I think, that they're just getting used to it. I mean, you take into account that this has just been a couple days for them, and they're still getting used to the rules and things like that. So I think it's the first time that they've really thought about it.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if they end up needing both Zaris at one point, and then maybe if, at the end of the season, maybe Nate and Zari will go off together into the totem sunset.
Yes, so that kind of brings up my next point, because like you said, Zari kind of comes clean after the explosion of the Hooverbot, and she says she wants to live in the totem. So like I said last season, my theory was that John and Zari 2.0 would be living in the totem. That was wrong. But we may now see Nate in 1.0 living in the totem, and I'm thinking, is this a way to reduce the cast, or is it signaling the end of the show? I'm just wondering what they're going to... Is that their way of writing them off into the sunset? I just don't know. I've just got questions about that.
Yeah, those are my thoughts exactly. I kind of have all of the same questions, because to me, there was more than one scene this episode planting the seeds that either the show is ending, or maybe some of our oldest cast members are leaving. They've kind of been whittling us down season after season. But this one definitely comes to mind, this scene, because I got that same feeling. And also at the end of the episode, that heart-to-heart with Sara and Ava after Ava reappears, that also had me feeling like maybe they might want to step off the Wave Rider. And I'm like, I wonder if they're trying to tee it up for a possible ending if this is our final season. It hasn't been announced, but neither has a season 8. So I wonder if the writers are just trying to prepare in case we don't come back.
Whoa, guys. Hold on a second. Before we speculate on the show ending, how about the elephant in the totem here? Zari says she's now part of a community and feels like she has a home in the totem? What? There's others living in there? Where does she go when she's inside? The only relative thing I can think of is when Amaya visited her ancestors in her totem to get advice. So what is going on in there? There's a whole world living inside the totem? Are other totem bearers that are trapped? Are they in there as well? Are all the totems somehow connected, creating a little linked world of little living rooms? We need to see all this.
Well, I think at one point they do actually explain this to us, that all of the totem bearers of the wind totem all end up inside the totem, which is how Zari ends up being saved. They told us that at the end of season 4. Is that season 4 when they killed her off?
Okay.
Or replaced her with Bayrod, however you want to look at that.
So do they all live in the little apartment living room with her? Or what's the way she describes it? It sounds like there's a whole living community. Like I'm picturing a town in there now. We've got to see what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I don't know if there's multiple rooms. Everybody gets their own little living space. There's a magical room created every time there's a new totem bearer. I don't know.
It's going back to Doctor Who. It's bigger on the inside.
Totally. So now that brings me to what you guys were saying. If that's the case, maybe we will see if Nate decides he wants to try living in there with her. I mean, it seems pretty safe. and all he wants is a life with her, so maybe that will be how they go off into their little sunset. Interesting, though, because it's interesting you guys bring this up, because I actually didn't get any end of show vibes the way you guys did on this episode. So I'm like, you make me think about it, but I definitely didn't feel it while I was watching. I think I was too caught up in the tension of everything else going on that I didn't pick up on that cue at all.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that would be a really easy way to write off these characters with a happy ending. And then they did the same thing with Sara and Ava. I was like, I wonder.
Yep. Huh. Yeah, show us. I want to see inside the totem.
So, talking about Hoovinator 1.0, Zari 1.0 has hacked the Hoovinator. So, again, good to see her tech skills coming into play here. And she says the tech is the same as the Wave Rider.
Yeah.
So is the chip in his head. And so the first thing I thought about was, if Bishop and Evil Gideon are sending the Hoovinators and the tech is the same, did Bishop invent the Wave Rider in the real reality, or is he now the inventor since he reverse engineered it with Gideon's help? So, lots of questions here.
I need a sound effect. Boom! Mind blow with idea. So first off here, X-Force, I so love that we have OG Zari back to her old tricks. Like I said in my opening monologue, she's an engineering genius. And of course she can hack the Hoovinator and reprogram him. I love that. And I love that we finally have something for her to do and be useful again instead of just the love story. So that I love. I just loved seeing Zari do all of this. That this is what we've missed so much. Now, your theory, holy crap, I didn't even think of that. That's actually pretty complicated when you think about the timing of it all. Yeah. So I'll just bear with me here, because I was typing like a mad scientist. When Bishop gets his own Gideon, he doesn't have access to a Wave Rider or to time travel. So how would he and his Gideon even be going anywhere? All he has is his own version of her. But I suppose she would be programmed with all the tech specs to build a ship, which then changes the timeline of when they were first built, because obviously he didn't originally design it. It's from the future. So if he now has built the first one in his timeline, does that make time ripples to the future, changing how everything has been done before? And is that part of why Ava and Gary disappear as well? Because with Bishop starting everything, then most likely the Time Bureau never gets established either. My brain is spinning. Help!
We have a lot of questions. I am hopeful that we're getting answers soon. But my current speculation is that they're referring to it as the Rogue Wave Rider, and everything that he's doing is just, his own mission, his own whatever. So I do think that, I kind of go back to that scene, was it in last week's episode? I think, Zari with all the whiskey bottles, and she starts pulling out, and she's like, and there's this our Wave Rider, but there's a second Wave Rider and a third Wave Rider. And if there's a third Wave Rider, there's a fourth Wave Rider. And she just kind of goes down this rabbit hole, but it's kind of so true, because our Wave Rider, the quote original one, can come from any point in time, but then so can Bishop's. And so it's all very confusing. But I do feel like he's functioning more as like a rogue Wave Rider that won't necessarily impact our timeline, because the version of the Legends he's trying to kill in the past is actually the future version of themselves, and the original Legends have still yet to be technically kidnapped from 2016, because they're kind of in 1925. It's very confusing, because technically they've already been kidnapped because they're in 1925, but anyways.
Again,
yes.
The question is, he doesn't have a Wave Rider. All he has is a little Gideon sticking out of a device that he stole, so he would have to build a Wave Rider.
But he could build one if Gideon knows how.
Unless somehow the Legends visit him in that timeline again, and he knows everything about them, and he steals their Wave Rider then, and inserts his own Gideon into it, and she takes over the systems. That could be. There's just so much. But if he is rogue and completely outside of everything, then that kind of answers that takes away a lot of the conundrums, the time loops and craziness, because like your theory, X-Force, if he ends up becoming the original creator of Gideon and the Wave Rider and all that from that point forward, the entire future has changed.
Yeah.
Which kind of like negates our it negates our show, like, I guess kind of, because he's in, correct me if I'm wrong, 2144?
Was it 21 or was it 22? I thought it was 20.
I think it's 22.
22
Okay.
something, yeah.
And when was Rip from? 20, I think he was from 21 something. Maybe he's the one from 21 something.
I'm not sure.
Okay. You guys, I'll figure out like when Rip is from. But anyway, if Bishop is from a time past Rip, in theory, that wouldn't affect anything because Rip has already gone back in time to 2016 to pick up the original Legends. Their whole story has already played out, yada, 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 100 years prior to when Bishop is now having a rogue Wave Rider, and we've now, 7 years later, ended up in 1925. Is your brain ready to explode? Because mine is.
Yes.
Huge. It says he's from the 22nd century.
So 21 something.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a date. I don't see an actual date.
We may not have gotten an actual date. But if Bishop's from 22 something, that's the 23rd century.
You're right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, there is no... wait a sec. He tries to stop Vandal Savage from conquering the world in the year 2166.
Okay.
But
yes,
that's Savage trying to conquer the world at that timeline. So Rip is probably from 2140, 2130 something, I would imagine.
Yeah, so 21 something, because then he goes back to 2016 to get the Legends to stop Vandal Savage, and where our whole series is born.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a really big rabbit hole. Continue.
No, but it has some clarity there. But
so that explain what you just said again, Jess. So that kind of means Bishop can't really mess with that part of it yet.
Exactly, because he's
right.
So he's basically, in my mind, building or otherwise acquiring. I got my money on building another Wave Rider 100 years after Rip has his Wave Rider, which came from the Time Masters who lived at the end of time, which is outside of time. And that's how he got the Wave Rider. And then he went back to 2016, which started everything.
Yeah.
Which makes you wonder if the Time Masters are at the end of time and they built and created the Wave Riders, the spaceship, the time travel technology like that. Yeah. When does time travel technology actually come into play? Like, we just saw that Davy's version of it happened in 1925. Okay, so that's many years before the end of time. So how many advancements is there in time travel before we get the Wave Rider version of it? And then that's what I'm wondering is how they pluck Rip Hunter, or they recruit him to be a time hunter or to be a time master. Do they recruit him from his timeline to fight Vandal Savage in his own timeline? Like I'm trying to piece that together.
The Vandal Savage mission was rogue. He went after Vandal Savage because Savage killed his family.
It was okay.
He
that
left
was rogue.
the
Yeah,
Time
you're right.
Masters. He stole the Wave Rider, and that's why they were trying to capture him throughout season 1.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Okay, so I'm that detail, but still, their time travel, their Wave Riders come from the future, way far in the future, which is different. Yeah. So how does Bishop have the technology in his time to make the same type of ship that was designed at the end of time? There's a technological gap there that's not connecting for me.
I don't know. We'll have to find out if that's what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that he is making the technology work, like he had to make the technology work to get Gideon working in his time. So it may not be as refined and as polished as what our Wave Rider is like.
Or, mind you, he could be the one. It's his technology that could have advanced it. And the Time Master's designs are based on what he created. I mean, 2250, whatever year he's from, is really far in the future, so maybe his tech is good enough. 2213, maybe his tech is good enough, and they went from his models and worked, advanced it from there.
Yeah.
Which is a time loop, because it, again, chicken or the egg, it had to start somewhere. Like time ships were created before he got his version of it, because he stole something he shouldn't have had in a timeline he shouldn't have been in. So it's completely yeah, writers, have fun.
Wimey.
Have fun straightening this one out.
They won't. Don't worry.
But it's fun for us.
Yeah. So Zari finds a directive in the Hoovinator to eliminate the legends and protect the timeline. And I'm just thinking, they took our jobs. But I thought this was very interesting that, where Nate was like, why are they trying to eliminate us? That's what we do, is protect the timeline.
Which made me laugh, and I thought it might be another indicator. It could be the legends, because that was like my theory. But again, I think they're leading us to believe it's Bishop. It's looking more and more like it's Bishop, like 100%. So,
well, yeah. I mean, Nate says exactly that. Protecting the timeline is literally our job. So why would someone protecting it want us dead? That's exactly what Nate says. Now, that to me, it says it is Bishop, but it has to be, or we wouldn't have seen all that lead up to him getting his own Gideon, and the Hoovnaver bots just don't make any sense unless it is him building them. It just doesn't make sense. It has to be Bishop. Like, is it obvious? Is it yes? But maybe at this point they don't care, or we've all figured it out. I don't know if the writers are still trying to think they're fooling us. I think it's blatantly obvious that maybe they just don't care. It's just leading us up to, okay, how much is Bishop doing? Like, obviously he had an Edison robot ready to go right away.
Yeah.
All this stuff. So interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that was very interesting that they almost get the plans back from Edison, but his questions cause the Hoovinator to overload and blow up, and that shock kills Edison.
Whoops.
And then you, like you said, we've immediately got Hoovinator 3.0 and the Edinator, I don't know, Edisoninator 1.0. So, I mean, just almost immediately.
I know, and I think that's what's so interesting to me about this season. Like, is we actually get to hear the Wave Rider, the Rogue One, just like show up just as something big happens, like Edison or Hoover dying, like just as it happens. And again, like, I still kind of want it to be the Legends hunting themselves, but again, it's got to be Bishop. I think, like, it's just looking more and more like him. But it was just really cool to see the other side of that, because we were always on like the legend side of, oh, such and such happened, so we need to go here. And so like a big event happens that wasn't supposed to happen, Wave Rider shows up. So here we are on the other side of it. Big event happens that's not supposed to happen, that we know isn't supposed to happen, and then we hear the Wave Rider show up. So I thought that was super cool.
Edinator, I like it.
I like it.
I like that. But yeah, that was one of these edge of seat moments. I mean, they couldn't stop Hoovnaver from fritzing out, and it gets out of control way too fast. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh crap, how do they explain to Edison about future robotic technology? How's that going to mess up history? Because Edison creating the light bulb, and he's a historical figure, and now he witnesses future tech? What? But then he dies, and it gets even worse. And that is what I love about this season, because everything we have learned through this show about not messing up history or changing things, and we're having Ava constantly reminding us of taking little steps, and things just can't be controlled, and we have crazy consequences and risk and fallout of simple mistakes. It's teaching us that we really should never be able to have time travel. Like, in reality, we probably should never have time travel, because this is the kind of stuff that's going to happen. If it gets out of hand and people have access to it, the world would just implode upon itself. And so I'm so with you about all of your thoughts, Harley. It's just this stuff is just amazing, and it's crazy. And this is why this episode was so good, because this type of edge of seat moment is just completely out of control, and it left me with my jaw to the ground, like wondering, how are they going to get out of this? It's crazy.
Yeah.
And like you said, like, I love seeing the Wave Rider show up. I mean, this is obviously a major break in history if you kill Edison and Hoover at the same time, because the world thinks it's Hoover. Nobody else but us knows it's a bot. And immediately they're replaced. I mean, it makes you think at this moment, how many historical figures are actual Hoofinator bots now? How many? I mean,
well, we've only killed
we're
two,
just seeing,
so.
right? But if we don't, just as an outside idea, we don't know what Bishop is doing. Is he going through time with his Wave Rider and replacing everything with bots because he wants to?
I mean, I think he's trying to preserve the timeline, but the question is why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because we understand why he wants to kill the Legends, but I guess he has to preserve the timeline or he erases himself.
Yeah,
'Cause he's from
I
so far
think
in the
it's
future.
and I think it's partly that, and I think it's also partly that he wants to have Gideon working with him, and if they are working to preserve the timeline, she's going to be more willing to pursue the Legends rather than and so I think it's a way for him to get her not to be antagonistic and to work with him.
That makes sense too.
So, almost in a sense, it's like it's painting the picture that he is the ultimate true hero here. Because the Legends keep screwing things up, and he's running around trying to fix it and keep history preserved. Which is kind of weird if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of truth.
Yeah, I mean, they've taken the season and flipped it on its head, and we've gotten to see things from the other side, and that's part of the reason I think I love it so much, is we're finally getting to see the other side.
Yeah.
It's fantastic writing. We have not had writing like this so intricately detailed and all over the place, yet making sense in since season 2. It's crazy.
It's well done. I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Definitely. So, let's talk about the rest of the Legends. Are the Bullet Blondes? They can't even enjoy their ice cream and pizza in peace without people trying to kill them. But Flash, he did say Canadians are good people first before
He defended Canada
before he shot Sara.
before opening fire. So there's that.
That is so true. Yeah, I mean, mind you, this was the Legends' fault. They were talking out loud openly, and everybody could have heard them. Whoever was nearby could have heard them. So, come on, guys. They really aren't paying attention to their surroundings. Their situational awareness has been kind of eased off a bit.
They don't have their flashy thing anymore.
I know.
Yep.
I loved this detail. I was like, yes, call them out. They should not be talking about this stuff in the open willy-nilly where anyone can hear them. Someone's eventually going to put 2 and 2 together. Maybe not 2 and 2 together, but they're going to figure out they're not supposed to be there. Anyways.
Yep.
The other thing I liked about this scene is that I thought it was actually a really good use of Sarah's regenerating abilities. So she actually gets to take a bullet for the team, or more than likely just for Ava. But what I want to know is what kind of stories is that going to spin about the Bullet Blondes now? Can't be killed?
Oh,
and
man.
Were there gods? I mean, think about it. It's 1925.
Well, and you saw that when the camera pulled back, there was about 7 or 8 people that witnessed that whole thing. They're all sitting there in shock. And they saw that. She got blasted by a shotgun and got up from it. And she's totally fine. So you didn't erase those guys' memories. What's going to... So it leads me to think this Bullet Blonde story has been going on for quite a few episodes now. If Bishop doesn't kill them, they are basically injecting themselves into the history books as these female mobsters that are equally as threatening as Al Capone and stuff. There's a lot that they have to go back and fix and erase to get rid of the Bullet Blondes in history, because as of now, they are a real big part of history.
Yes, they are. And I think that's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
But...
I was just going to say, and Sarah, I mean, how many episodes has it been since we've seen her alien DNA be part of the story again? Not since last season. This is the first hint of it this season that, oh yeah, she's an alien. She's got superpowers now. I completely forgot about it until this moment.
It was a nice touch. I was glad they used it. And I think as long as they don't make it heavy-handed throughout the rest of the season, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact is, I love that Sara is being smart about protecting Ava, and it's really, this protection is setting up the idea of losing her, which is paid off later in the app. So I like the fact that they use this healing ability to kind of start that story process, and not as a, you know, an end all be all.
Yeah, this was a really well layered episode. Like, really well. Like, there's so many different things that we could really get into with each of the stories. It was really good.
Yep.
So they finally find Davies, and he is working for Edison, and that's not a surprise, because he had a lot of smart people working for him, and he actually stole a lot of creators' tech along the way. And, you know, so it makes total sense that you've got this inventor like Davies working for him. And I did, you know, we brought it up in the beginning, but they're joking about Davies being Mick with hair, young Stein, Ray.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I love that they named everyone except for John.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right with the thing with Edison. I mean, because Davies, obviously, it's a made-up character. He's not part of history. They threw him into the history book. So if he is just an inventor working under historical figures, then that's an easy shoe-in. And sure, why not? And I mean, as we get to the end of the episode, he's now taken out of time. So maybe Edison hated him. So maybe he got wiped from the history books. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But the little confrontation here, when they get the blueprints, he corrects Sara about his name. He says, in the closed captionings, it says Davis, not Davies. And that's a small thing I missed at first, but the time manual says Davies, and the machine plans say Dr. G. Davies, Davies. So I'm wondering, did he change his name? If so, did he do it before time travel, after time travel? I mean, you know, there's a lot of speculation is, you know, what's going on? Was there a name change here, or, you know, is he playing a different person? I'm just curious about y'all's speculation on the difference, because at the end of the episode, when Sara introduces him to the entire legend, she said, you know, she pronounces it Davis. So I don't know.
I'm going to go ahead and be boring and just say it's maybe the British pronunciation or the Welsh pronunciation. Oh, okay. I know that's super boring. I know, I'm sorry. But the thing is about this is, like, he's supposed to die. He's supposed to electrocute himself in his time machine. He's not supposed to live beyond November 7th. So, and this will come back up later because I have some more points about this. But I guess he's just like a small footprint. I mean, he lays the foundation. He doesn't actually invent it, as Ava says. And we learn later that that's because he's supposed to be dead. He's supposed to die, and he's supposed to electrocute himself. So, yeah. I don't know what to do with that. So I'm being boring and just saying it's British versus pronunciation versus how we would pronounce it.
That's what I kind of thought, is maybe it's just spelt wrong, or if he came overseas, sometimes on the ship manifests they spell the name wrong because of the accents and stuff. It could be something just as simple as that, or maybe it's Edison not wanting to give him any credit for anything because he was trying to burn all his paperwork and everything. So if Edison changes his name in the history books, Davis will not get credit for anything. But who's this Davies person? I don't know. He's just a lab worker I had. So, you know, maybe that's what it is. I have no idea. But to continue your thoughts, Harley, also that his first instance of trying his time travel machine was supposed to fail, and he was supposed to die, and that's why his work, somebody saves his work, and it makes it forward in time for someone else to continue working on it and making it happen, because they say he is the basis of time travel. He didn't create or invent it, but his work was the basis of it. So he was supposed to die, but in reality, our team used his time machine and they disappear anyway. So he got taken out of his timeline. The machine disappears. So according to the world at that point, he is gone. He is still dead. Like, they don't believe in time travel. So as far as they know, the machine did blow up and he is dead. He's gone because he just obviously disappeared. So the history books stay the same.
Yeah.
But we get the character to survive because he is now in wherever they went with our team. Hence, we get to keep Matt Ryan as part of the team because obviously he's going to be running around with them in wherever they went. And do you guys bring it up here later in the notes? Is that a question?
It comes back a little
where they
bit.
are? Okay.
It comes back a little bit later. So we can kind of finish up.
I'll leave it at that then.
Because we've got some more on Davies himself, or Davis.
Yeah. So he's extremely passionate about time travel, and we learn later that he wants to use it to save somebody. And I'm speculating that it's the love of his life or something like that. But how and why that person would be lost is intriguing to me. And what really got my attention is when he's having that panic attack, he pulls out a medallion. And at first I thought it was, you see the word Thomas, so I thought it would be maybe a St. Thomas medallion for guidance and directions in time of doubt. But then again, you look at it, and I think it's a person's name because you could also see numbers on it. So I'm wondering if it's like some type of dog tag or something like that. It's just intriguing. They're building up this mystery of who is it that he wants to use time travel to save.
Yeah.
Well, I like that you say St. Thomas is guidance and direction. That makes sense. You want guidance and direction when you're traveling through time, so that kind of makes sense. But yeah, the fact that there may have been a number or something on there, it's hard to say. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The fact that he wants to save somebody in his past, what I liked about that story is that is a direct connection and maybe a paying homage to the actual time machine story by H.G. Wells. Because in that story, the main character, the reason he's building a time machine is to go back in time and save his wife from dying. So that to me was like, I think they're paying homage to that storyline by having this character also want to invent time travel to go back and save someone. I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, and he also really clued into the fact that Sara said that she married a woman. And so that got me thinking that maybe Thomas was the love of his life and that he's trying to save Thomas. Because back in 1925, that would have been quite a bit frowned upon.
And the reason I said dog tags, I'm thinking maybe this person died in World War One.
Yep.
Okay.
And so he lost him in World War One. I don't know.
Yeah, and because it's a good point you bring up, because the way when she said, "I'm married, got to save Avery, I'm married," he's like, "Oh, you married a woman?" It was the way he said it. There was a lot of emotion behind that. Yeah, so you might be pulling on something there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and can we just insert here? We should have done this at the very beginning. I have to give props to the hair and makeup department and to Matt Ryan, because they have done a really, really good job of making him a different enough character that I am not thinking of John Constantine at all.
Yeah.
He looks really good. There was a couple times he slipped up where it sounded like John again, but for the most part he did really, really well with the new accent and the higher pitched voice and just his mannerisms and his panic attacks and the way he was acting. I mean, Matt Ryan, I had no idea what the stretch of his acting capabilities were, because I've only ever known this actor as Constantine, and he's been up and down with that role, but I think he did a phenomenal job here. I had no hints of being reminded of Constantine at all. This is a completely new and different character, which I really, really appreciated, because the Amaya to Charlie thing did not work for me at all. This worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
No, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they've done a really good job, and just the little bits in the personality of, he's several times he's reciting the poem that I had to memorize in junior high.
Oh, yeah?
The master, I am the master of my fate, the captain of my soul. He's saying that to kind of calm himself or steady himself, and just his talk about sacred purpose and things like that. So they're really fleshing him out and giving him just a total different look than Constantine. So they're doing a great job.
Well, one of the next points that we come to, and I think this is pretty interesting to kind of like dig in and talk about, is Sara is really rushing through things without stopping to consider how she's altering the timeline. And as it turns out, it's one of those pivotal moments in history that's going to set up the future of time travel as we know it, which has really big consequences for our team.
I was actually getting a little bit frustrated with Sara here. She was leading with her emotions and not her head and her gut, and it was actually starting to bug me because, again, it's like, Sara, you're better than this, you're smarter than this, you have learnt everything over these last 7 seasons. That is why you are the captain of this team. You should not be acting like this. And so it was bugging me a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I'll bring it up. I actually liked some of it, but, just from the way that she gave the speech, but we'll get into that later. But so she involves Gary, and he finds the part that they need, but he, of course, in Legends fashion, messes up the plan by getting caught by Edison
and telling him everything.
Yep.
Yeah, and like, oh gosh, and now he gets Davies stuck in Bellevue. And so, it's a chain of events. So he's stuck in Bellevue. They activate the time machine. The manual disappears. Ava disappears. Gary disappears. And, it's like, oh my gosh, Gary.
Yeah.
But typical Legends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing is really like where it gets interesting to me, because him finishing the time machine is what ends up resetting the timeline. But here's the speculation again. Like, when he doesn't die, shouldn't that mess things up too? I mean, I guess that's ultimately, like we said, it's going to depend on where and when they actually ended up when they traveled through time. Because if they've successfully pulled him out of time with themselves, and he's assuming they no longer return him to 1925 and he stays with them, which I guess that maybe that's where they're going. Because otherwise, he is another person that shouldn't be there, that they've... In this case, instead of taking out of the timeline, they've inserted a person.
Yeah, and that's where it's weird, because essentially, like I said, essentially he's dead. In his timeline, he's dead. He's gone. So that part of the timeline is okay. But wherever it is they ended up, because we don't have a time, we don't have a location, we have no idea where he is. Yes, he is now... They can't leave him there, because that would now essentially put him in the wrong time, and we don't know what repercussions there would be from that. So he now has to stay with the team until they can figure things out. But if you think about the scene we saw, they landed in the middle of a jungle somewhere with like time machine and everything. Well, we're probably going to get 4 or 5 episodes of them being stuck there, because there's no power, there's no electricity. How are they going to turn the time machine on again? They're stuck there. Unless it is Tahiti 2021 and they can go get their own version of the wave ride, or whatever it was Ava was saying, go to a time bureau location and get time carriers. The thing is, where the time machine is, it is now a dead piece of junk sitting in the middle of the forest, because it can't be powered. So that's kind of weird. And that's why I think something else has to happen there. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about the end of the episode in a bit. But I found that whole scene, like, that was the start of everything coming undone, everything being unwound, is by having Bayrod insert the last piece and turn on the machine. And like that is what kicked off the oh crap, and everything just steamrolled from there. And it was so exciting. And so, I mean, Ava disappearing and Gary disappearing, that took my breath away. Because I thought, holy crap, like, it's probably going to be, like, just briefly in my head, they might be gone for a couple episodes until we figure out a way to rescue them. I didn't expect them to come back by the end of this episode. That just took my breath away. Like you said, X-Force, we just got the buildup of Sara trying to save her, and because she rushed everything, she's the one who caused her girl to disappear. So I just thought this was going to be a hard lesson for Sara to learn that's going to last for a couple episodes. And it just everything built up. And this last 10 minutes of the episode is just some of the best stuff they've ever done. It was so fascinating. So, oh my God, moments.
It was good.
Yeah. Little side note here. Gary loves scavenger hunts. So I'd love to go with him and Ron Swanson on a scavenger hunt because we would obviously win everything.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, scavenger hunt, I want him to be my dungeon master for a game of Dungeons and Dragons. I mean...
There you go. You just gotta...
He's fun. I would be his best buddy. He just seems fun to me.
Oh, Gary. He means so well. He's just so lovable, though. You can't stay mad at him. It's like a puppy.
You can't.
But anyway, speaking of messing up timelines, it leads me to another question. How can Sara help him save his person without altering the timeline? Unless they just do what they're doing with him and go back and pluck them both out and keep them with them? I don't know. I guess in theory, as long as they never go back to 1925, then it doesn't change stuff? I don't know. This is where it gets confusing.
If you think about it, maybe his person isn't anybody significant. Maybe it's just a soldier on the front lines, just some guy who never had any significant impact on history anyway. So whether he lives or dies, I mean, the only thing it would change is the two of them are now a couple that get to grow old together. Maybe they adopt a kid. Who knows? But if you look at the history of our show, how many meaningless side characters have died? We talked about this a couple episodes ago, X-Force, about how much death we have had on our show. Well, you would think all of those deaths caused by our team would have an impact on the timeline, but they haven't. So maybe his lover is just nobody of any big deal.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know. It's kind of interesting because I'm again taken back on the Marvel side to the series Exiles, where they're primarily they're pulling mutants, but they're pulling people from the timeline right as they died. So they're in their reality, this person died, and they're pulling them out of timeline to kind of go on these missions a la Quantum Leap and put things right. So they're using people that have already died in their reality to run these missions. So, they're never going to go back to their home reality, but they do end up, a lot of them do end up dying. So I don't know if it could be some type of, they're setting up people to kind of, be Time Masters 2.0 to put things right. I don't know if they're going to, have a group of people to take over things after the legends decide to retire. I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. So I want to ask you, what are your guys' guesses? Where did they end up? It doesn't look like Tahiti to me. It looks like a North American forest. Like, I didn't see white sand and palm trees. It looks... where do you think they are?
Well, we've seen the promo for next week, so...
Oh. Aw. Okay,
Based on just that scene, I honestly had no idea. Like, no idea.
Okay.
Yeah. When I saw that scene, no. They were in a forest somewhere.
Obviously not in Tahiti. That's about it. That's all I knew. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, since you saw the trailers for next week, does that tie into why you said earlier in this episode that the machine takes them where they need to go, not where they want to go? Is that based on you seeing the trailer?
No, that's just a Doctor Who thing. I mean, that's, the TARDIS takes them where, most of the time the Doctor where they need to go rather than where they particularly
we know they're not in Tahiti, so...
Yeah.
Okay, well, don't tell me, because I'll leave that as a surprise
I'm not
for
going to
myself.
say
But,
anything.
Yeah, I don't know. It's for me, like, not knowing what's coming, I can't imagine where they are. I mean, even the what time period they're in is
exactly.
His time machine worked
You couldn't tell anything.
That's just a forest.
No clue.
And I couldn't see, like, how did he program? Because he's like, Tahiti 2021, here we come. Well, I didn't notice anywhere on the machine where he's programming in time and date. Because even in Doctor Who, in the TARDIS, you see him have to lock it all in and actually have on screen the date and the time. So what does Davis do here? I didn't see how he was.
I have no idea.
I can't imagine speaking it.
Yeah, no clue.
He must have put it somewhere, but I don't think we really saw it.
No. Maybe it's on the back side of the console where he was
It
standing.
must have been.
Yeah.
But all the talk about Tahiti and the Bureau safe house, I couldn't help but think of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Tahiti. It's a magical place.
Wait, all on 3 now. 1, 2, 3. Tahiti.
It's a magical
place.
It's a magical place.
I miss S.H.I.E.L.D. so much.
Oh, such a good show. It's so funny. Like, it's too bad. I don't know if they would have been able to say that exact line or not. I don't know how that works between shows, but that would have been really funny if they had said, Tahiti, it's a magical place.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's, I'm going to save, that's pretty much all I have because I'm going to save the rest for my favorite scene. But, this is traditional Legends, things go off the rails.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Which is good, though. I mean, that's what's exciting about our show. So
yeah.
what I
Oh, yeah.
also like is they're not having convenient plot device, easy way outs. There's actual risk and things happening that they're screwing up, and they're in trouble because of it. I like that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. It is favorite scene time.
Shape out and eagle!
Who comes? Ooh, Harley is first tonight.
Yep.
I am. I don't think I reordered things, but I am first. We're kind of backwards in our list.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not used to going first. Wow. I was caught off guard. But I was trying to find like a favorite scene, and there's so many good moments. But I think ultimately I just kind of really wanted to go with something fun and something Gideon. So I went with her questioning the concept of luck.
What is the problema? Why can't you just bring us some good luck, man? Who are you conversing with? Is there someone up there? Hello! I'm Gideon!
Fine. I didn't want to do this, but you leave me no choice. I had to perform the luck spell. Now this rock will bring us good luck.
Oh, boy, you can do that?
Obviously, I'm a witch.
Isn't luck just an interpretation of random occurrences? How can a spell generate that?
How can a spell generate anything? All I know is it works.
I think like one of the things that sold it for me in the beginning was Astra saying, "Of course I can. I'm a witch." I was like, "Oh yeah. Of course she can. It's magic."
Why not?
Exactly.
Yeah, she got us all to bite. Why not?
She did.
And I had to include the opening part of that, though. Is there somebody up there? Hello?
I almost picked that, and so I'm glad you just put them both together. I was like, that is amazing.
That was so funny.
She's so funny. Okay, X-Force, you're next.
I called this one Everybody Loves Baby Footprints.
David's notes also say he got all his parts from Edison Labs. I bet that's where he found the missing one.
Scavenger hunt just got way easier.
Wait, I am also dying to go to 2021, but no footprints, remember?
Babe, I respect your no footprints plan. And yes, we could wait 5 years for the Tarazis to build a time machine that may or may not work. No offense.
Not taken.
Slightly offended.
Or we could leave a tiny footprint and get out of here way earlier.
It's not going to be tiny. Can you slow down? We're just trying to get all the information. For instance, this is very interesting. The manual says that Davies laid the foundation for time travel. If he built a time machine, why doesn't it say that he invented time travel?
Maybe he time traveled somewhere, couldn't recharge, and got stuck there.
Oh, that makes sense. That's why he never got credit, because no one ever knew he succeeded.
But if we time travel to the future, we can recharge it. Plus, we'll pick up some time couriers and we'll get back and we'll return the machine and he'll be none the wiser. Babe, we would have time travel again. And I know it's a footprint, but it's a tiny footprint. It's like a baby footprint, and everyone loves baby footprints.
Sarah's come a long way with being captain, and she just really wants to get her crew back, and she knows how to find the answers to everybody's objections. Yes, this blows up in her face at the end, and it does get challenged, but I just love her confidence in being captain and taking the reins here. So
it was a really, really great scene, and I probably would have picked it had you not. So
yeah, and I mean, Ava kind of confirmed what we were talking about earlier there too. So
yes, I was trying to get through a bunch of the episode to figure out what my favorite scene ultimately was going to be, and that was a really, really great scene. I picked up on a lot of stuff she was saying after the fact. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah,
but that highlights what we were talking about earlier too. That Sarah's just rushing through, and Ava's like, slow down, and that's probably why they work so well together, because they are so opposite in how they handle situations. But Ava's just lay out a plan. Let me get all the details first. Then we start figuring things out. Yeah, I'm not going to run in guns a-blazing without knowing what's on the other side. Like, it's great.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, mine comes towards the end of the episode when everything is happening and all hell is breaking loose and everything's falling apart. It's the first time they go to time travel, and they fill in Ava on Sarah's apparent deal with Davis.
Right then. Where to?
We need to go somewhere we can get back to our time machine and find the rest of our crew.
Tahiti, 2021. There's a Time Bureau safe house there. We can go pick up some time couriers.
And sounds like a great honeymoon.
Tahiti would be an amazing honeymoon.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, ladies, but after you have got the rest of your friends, you will hold up your end of the deal, won't you?
I always keep my word.
Deal? What do you... You know what? Nope. I didn't even care. It's been a crazy day. I disappeared. I don't want to know anything. Don't tell me anything.
You should know one thing. We also killed Edison.
You what?
Yes. I'm glad you got that in there.
You what? Yeah. I tell you, between Ava, Gideon, and Zari, I'm laughing so much at those three. They are just priceless.
Oh my god, the writing is fantastic. The way that they're delivering the lines is fantastic. Oh my gosh,
Totally.
so good.
It's so good.
What?
Good stuff. Those are some good. You know what? We've got our funny quotes pretty much. There's some good stuff happening. So it's all mixed in. All right, guys. So we would love to remind you about our Patreon support.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
So the timing of this one, guys, Jess has a little bit of a sneak peek, but I contacted Dan Caverly at Quintex Entertainment and said, Dan, we're stuck in the 1920s and there's a whole lot of jazz music. I think you could come up with something for us about that. And sure enough, we leave the 1920s on this very episode, so we might only get a one-and-done shot here, but Dan put something together special for us. Here it is.
Don't hide all night and day and wish that you could have your say. The time is now for you to take the floor. Top up your drink and find your nerve. Get the attention that you deserve. But keep it quick, we've no patience for a bore.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your chance to step up into the spotlight and tell us what you think. Here they are, ready to listen to your feedback or show you the door. The Flash, Harley Quinn, and X-Force 11.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, that was...
So good.
High production values. That was amazing.
I'll make sure to let him know. Yes, he whipped that off in like 2 days after I asked him. It's crazy.
That's insane.
Wow. Yeah.
So good, though. I loved it.
So good. All right, let's kick it off with an email from Daryl Washington.
All right. He says, love the title. Who else has seen It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World? Very long, very funny movie. Yes, I immediately thought the same thing when I saw the title. Mm-hmm. Stop shooting Sara. I don't care if she is basically immortal now. My Ava Lance heart swells at seeing Ava kissing Sarah's wound. Oh, yeah. That was cute. Sarah's 1925 outfit is everything. Gary is an idiot. There's lots of exclamation points here, guys.
Yeah.
He don't tell Edison anything. He did good things, but much like Hoover, wasn't a good guy. Just ask Tesla. Truth. Mm-hmm. Edison was more likely to try and find a way to make money off of time travel than actually burn the plans. Yeah. That's a good point. I would rather skip the Zari and Nate scenes. Oh, I actually like those scenes. Sara called Ava her wife. I love the Doctor's reference to the poem Invictus. It's the unexpected that makes the show so good. There you go, Jeff. Yep. Invictus.
Yep.
Yep. Good stuff. Next up is an email from Comic Geek Kev. Hey, Legends, I know it's been a while since I've written about Legends of Tomorrow because, quite frankly, it was getting to a point where I couldn't watch it. But I did keep watching and to listen to the podcast, which at least made watching the show more bearable. Oh, okay. Aww. I'm not going to get deep in the weeds here, but this may be the best season of Legends in years. Oh, well, see, it's a good thing you stuck around.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening to the podcast, too. The story flows, characters are getting some time and space to work out. I'm really liking it. I like that they're keeping the zaniness to a minimum, although the "this guy looks familiar" was pushing it. But
was funny.
Much improved show and great podcast. 8 out of 10, we're back. I'm guessing that B word stands for, So excited for the rest of the season and podcast. You guys are the best. Comic Geek Kev. Well, you are one of the best as well. We're glad you're still hanging on for Legends with us.
Yay.
Yeah. And again, another week in a row, we've got Tales.
Again, another fantastic episode. This season is really on fire. Although the last episode is probably my favorite of the season so far, this one is still really good. A few random things in this episode. The Wave Rider sound effect being used to evoke fear and uncertainty instead of comfort is a nice twist. Yep. The date, November 7th, would have been the date the episode aired if they'd still had their Sunday time slot.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, that's interesting. The jokes about who Gwen looks like were great. They are really giving us a lot of Ava Lance this season, and I'm here for it.
Those ladies have gotten really used to kissing each other, I'll have to say.
Yeah.
Astra was great this episode. The whole luck stone to make Spooner feel better was really sweet. Although they really need to give up on the Bayrod Astra thing. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There was that
scene.
I thought
there was that hint at the end when he kind of
So I thought they did last season, but apparently not. But we'll see. I always liked Gideon, but I am absolutely loving human Gideon. She is the perfect comic relief for the show. Unlike Mona or Gary, who tended to have jokes associated with them that could be cringy and made me feel bad for them. The jokes with Gideon are not degrading her character, just simply someone with a different outlook on life, and I'm truly enjoying every single one.
Us too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There are two main things I'm upset with in this episode. One, they didn't show Gideon actually meeting the rest of the Legends. I was really looking forward to that, and they just skipped to the end of that interaction.
Yeah.
I know.
That's actually a good point, because the rest of the team has did not know that she was alive.
No.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. That is a major moment to have our entire team get to react. Oh my God, Gideon, what? That's not fair. You're right. You are so right. They robbed us of a huge moment.
They did.
Yeah. And 2, the Zari Tomaz storyline, which is still the Nate storyline. I understand with how the last episode went, this episode was probably going to be heavily focused on their relationship. But the way they played it out in this episode, it seems if they were wrapping up both of their storylines together with little to no opportunity for us to see Zari have her own storyline again. I really just wish they could break the two up so she could be her own character again. Unfortunately, even if they do that now, we still won't get her back.
Yeah.
Apart from that, still a great episode. I give it 8. He looks like a young Stein out of 10 Tails.
You know who looked like the young Stein actor was the guy driving the sports car, the Cannonball character. That actor looked like the young actor that played young Stein.
He did a little bit, yeah.
I hope what we had to say about Zara, is I thought Zara at least had some of her own story, getting to mess with the Hoovinator and do that. To me was original Zari back again. So hopefully that helped you a little bit. But last up, we got a voicemail from Perry White.
Hey, Flash, Harley, and X-Force 11. It's your intrepid reporter friend, Perry White, here with feedback for Legends of Tomorrow's episode. It's a mad, mad, mad scientist. I give this episode 9.5 train donuts out of 10. The gang's all back, and I'm so excited. For me, the best thing about this season continues to be the stakes that are involved and the vulnerability of our heroes, because they're stranded in time without their tech and they're up against so many odds. It just generates an organic amount of stress and tension, and even still, the writers are finding a way to sort of ratchet up that tension without being over the top and just being silly, and it's really, really making for a great season. All in all, it creates true unpredictability, something we haven't really had on this show, and something that a lot of shows don't get, to have a situation where you just totally, absolutely don't know where this thing is going to go and where it's going to wind up. And in my opinion, it makes for good television, and this season of Legends is so much better for it. I've decided for this particular episode, and I don't know, I might carry it forward, we'll see. I'm going to switch up the way I do feedback for this episode. I'm going to give out episode awards. And the first award I'm giving out is for the best Flash impression. And I'm giving that award to Amy Louise Pemberton as Gideon. Good Lord, that woman can run her ass off with some high heels on. My next award is the Best Deductive Skills Award, and I'm going to give that award to the Hoover Bot, who was able to realize that Zari 1.0 was lying about the whole situation with Nate. I just thought it was incredibly subtle and pretty cool, and it was just a fun scene. My next award, and I can give out this award since she obviously came back. If she had not, still be traumatic about it. But the next award I'm giving out is the Best Batman Vanishing Act, and I'm going to give that award to Ava for getting temporarily wiped from the timeline. I could almost hear Bruce Wayne say, "So that's how that feels." My next award is the Best Jump Scare, and I'm giving that award to Sara when she got shot, because I keep totally forgetting that she's an alien hybrid ninja assassin time travel captain. I don't want to say it's a storyline that's been dropped, but to be honest, it sort of feels like a storyline that gets dropped every now and again until she either gets shot or stabbed, and then we sort of realize, oh yeah, she can't die. The Best Visual Effect Award I'm going to give, and I wish I knew who the visual effects artists are, but it was a scene where Zari opened up the back of Hoover Bot's head. when she was looking in there, it almost felt like she was looking at the inner guts and the inner workings of the Wave Rider, which sort of ties into what happened later in the episode. But I just thought it was really a cool visual effect, having her pull that mechanism out of the back of his head. We didn't realize it was the back of his head at the time, and she's sort of peering in there, and I just thought that was a cool visual effect, so I wanted to give some recognition for that. My next award I'm going to give is for the best day player, and it would be easy to give it to Hooverbot. Well, more importantly, it would be easier to give it to the lobotomized Hooverbot, but I don't want to give him the day player award because he's been around more as a recurring character, so he could probably get the recurring character award. But the best day player award is absolutely got to go to Erwin George Cannonball Baker. On a personal note, the Cannonball Run with Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise is absolutely one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies of all time, and whenever it's on, I must watch it. The next award is the best set design, and I'm going to give that to whoever came up with the design for Dr. Davies' time machine. The fact that it's a time machine with no sort of solid structure to it, with all those openings, seems kind of crazy, but it also seems kind of fun and appropriate for Legends of Tomorrow, so I wanted to recognize that also. My next award is the best Scooby-Doo moment, and it was that moment when Zari, Bayrod, Ava, and Nate leaned in to see Hooverbot's to-do list that was on the computer screen. If you go back and look at the very first episode of Scooby-Doo, or if you've seen any previews, promos for Scooby-Doo, you sort of remember that one scene, and I think they were sort of looking at a book, and Velma was looking at a clue of some sort, and they sort of all leaned in and then looked at the camera a little bit, and of course the Legends didn't necessarily look at the camera, but that lean in, it just gave me the feelings that I have when I'm watching like an old episode of Scooby-Doo, and they get that one clue that sort of changes the day for them, and that moment it just did it for me. So that's the best Scooby-Doo moment award for me. Strangely enough, about that Scooby-Doo scene is we see what the Hooverbot's to-do list is, and I'm pretty sure I think it was either there or later in the episode where we see all of the things that he's supposed to be doing. What's really strange is the fact that eliminating the Legends was actually only number 4 on his to-do list. You would think that eliminating the Legends would be number 1. But it sort of makes sense for our crazy, wacky group of heroes to sort of be low on the list of things to do for the Hooverbot. My next award goes for Best Disguise, and I did look this up, and I think the woman's name, at least I think it's how it's pronounced, is Elkie Winters. She's sort of the costume designer, and I wanted to give her an award for basically burying Matt Ryan inside this new character. He's almost unrecognizable, and obviously credit goes to Ms. Winters, and it also goes to Matt Ryan for being sort of a chameleon type of actor. So just wanted to recognize that too. My next award goes for the best pet rock, and of course that's the faux magic rock that got Gideon, Spoons, and Astra to New York. It also got Gideon out of that kidnapping jam when she used it to knock that guy out who stole the Cannonball Run vehicle. When you have a rock in an episode, you want to recognize rock for rock-like things. So there you go. My next award, and I don't even know if you want to call it an award, but it's sort of best mystery, right? And of course, Dr. Davies made a significant point about saying there's someone that he wanted to save. It's sort of the sole reason that he made this time machine. And of course, we were sort of hinted about, but we were never told who it is that he wants to save. So of course, in true Legends fashion, whoever it is that he wants to save is ultimately going to be a disastrous turn for our heroes. I mean, of course, and it's strange because one of the funny things I said about this season is that it's been unpredictable, but the fact of the matter is, if there is someone that someone wants to save and they haven't said the name of who that person is, you can best believe is going to lead to narrative disaster when we find out who it is that Dr. Davies wants to save. My next award, or my next honor, has to be for the worst stand-in for Tahiti. And that award goes to whatever place it was that our legends landed in when the time machine opened up in the middle of some strange forest. Yeah, that certainly was not Tahiti, and that's got to be one of the worst stand-ins for that place of all time. So wanted to recognize that too. The next award is for the best Forrest Gump. That's all I got to say about that award. And that award goes to Gideon. When she finally is reunited with the rest of the legends, and we see we see Spooner and Astra running in there hoping to save the day, and we see the entire gang sitting around listening to Gideon tell a story, and all we get to hear is her say and that's how I arrived here. We obviously certainly would love to know all the things that she told the legends about how she came to life, but I just thought it was funny, if you remember from Forrest Gump, when he was about to give that speech at the monument, the microphone went out, and of course he was saying all these things that we never got to hear, and then the microphone comes back on and he's like, well, that's all I got to say about that. And of course that was the whole scene that I thought about when we got that wrap up from Gideon in that scene. The last award I want to give out is the best impression of Storm from the X-Men, and that award goes to Astra, who cast the magic lightning spell that knocked out the power grid for New York. Those are some fantastic visuals, I must say. And of course, I don't know Latin. I don't know exactly what she was saying, but the spell that she conjured up, combined with the visual effects, and to be honest, with the stakes that our team was facing, all combined to make that a really cool scene. And I just thought that in that moment, conjuring up that lightning, if you're familiar with Storm, she always has these incredibly important things to say before she summons the elements. And all I could think about when Astra was doing that spell was somehow, somewhere, Storm would have been proud of her. Well, those are all the awards I wanted to hand out for this episode. I am incredibly looking forward Sorry, got tongue-tied there. But I am incredibly looking forward to what the rest of the legends have to say about this episode. I enjoyed it a great deal, and I am so looking forward to what the rest of the season has to offer. This is Perry White, making another deadline, handing out some awards this time. I'm out.
Well, Perry White, I have to say, I actually think I kind of like this awards idea of yours. It kind of breaks up your feedback into nice, neat little sections. I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun.
Definitely.
You know what? We didn't actually talk about Hoovinator really as an actual character in this episode, and we probably should. I think that actor did the part really, really well. He was actual comedy gold himself, and even just pretending to be a robot, and like he did everything really well. He was comical. He was like mechanical, and and when he fritzed out, it was good. Really well done.
Yeah, he did a good job of playing a little different version when he was in, after he had been quote unquote reprogrammed. So I like that. So
yeah, and is Perry right? Is he going to keep on coming around? Because he seems to be able to. I guess it depends where they went. Right. So will he show up in their timeline? I don't know. Maybe a different robot will show up depending on the timeline they're in.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Cool, guys. Well, that is all we got for you tonight. Nothing from our friend Dreamweaver. But you know what? Before I forget, I had something here I wanted to run past you guys because she had a really good thought on our last podcast. It was part of her feedback, and I don't think we brought it up, but when I listened back to it this week, I thought, you know what, she has a really good point. It's a good talking point. I thought we'll just insert it here. She says, she was talking about our legends are going back in time, and they're meeting all these characters in history, like what was his name? Eddie from the bar. last week's episode, right? And different characters like they're traveling through different points in time, and they're creating relationships with these people, and then they're leaving them there in that timeline. Well, their friendships and their relationships with these people they're creating has to have a lasting impression on those people. So what happens to those people's lives as they continue living? And our legends, since it's friendships, wouldn't it be cool to have our legends go back at a later timeline? And let's say Eddie, as an example, say 10 years from now or 20 years from that point, go check in on Eddie, see how he's doing, see what he's doing, and then he could be like, oh my God, Zari, like, wow, and like, wouldn't it be neat to kind of go back and see some of these friendships, because they're creating a lot of them throughout history, and it's like that those poor people are being left behind with losing their friends. I think that's a cool idea, to go check in on some of their friends. How come that's never happened in 7 seasons of the show? We've actually never seen that happen once, where they've checked in on friends they've made.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting. I mean, to get to see a little more of their life, and you know, they may have, but we've just not seen it on screen.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that might be meddling too much in the past, but I guess it just depends on the situation.
Well, I mean, the friendships they make have no idea that they're time travelers, so it's just be like, yeah, we left town for a while and now we're back. We thought we'd say hi. Like, I don't know. I think it'd be neat. So for some of these characters that we really, you know, fall in love with, even though it's a one episode one-off, we like Eddie last week. We really like that character, so it'd be cool to check in on him. I don't know. It was a good idea.
Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight that. So, all right, guys, that is truly everything we got for you tonight. So if you'd like to send in feedback and be part of the show, listen to this.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to Tomorrow's Legends Podcast at gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Legends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
Yeah. So that does wrap us. So how many episodes are left before the mid-season finale, if you count?
Well, if you count the mid-season finale, it's next week and the mid-season finale. So we've got 2 more episodes left.
Oh, okay. Yikes. I wonder, do you think they're going to leave us on a cliffhanger? What kind of ending are we going to have for mid-season?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't. I don't know if they knew that was going to be mid-season or not.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Interesting. We'll have to see what they do. I don't know. 2 more episodes, but it's good. And then all of a sudden it's holidays, Christmas time, winter, snow. What the heck? Just like that. Well, the only thing I have to let everybody know, if you are a Star Wars fan and you've been listening to the Mandalore podcast, well, we got back in action this last week. I just released 2 episodes today. In fact, the Calgary Expo special that we did, our podcast live, and we broke down the Boba Fett trailer, because that show is coming at the end of December. So if you're getting all ramped up for Star Wars, Book of Boba Fett, we'll be in your ears talking about that. So check it out. That's all I got for you guys. Talk to you next week. This is The Flash, signing off.
This is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
This is X-Force 11. So say we all.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.